Those who have their ascendant or moon sign in Virgo tend to be very critical of both themselves and of others. They pay too much attention to details, so they must criticize everything that they see as wrong. It's hard for them to ignore even the smallest of mistakes. In physical terms, they tend to be quite lean, very chiseled, and usually a bit taller than average, with paler skin and lighter hair and eye color. Their relationship with their extended family can be seen more as a business partnership or as a continuous negotiation rather than a true familial relationship. That's because many times the family members tend to be businessmen themselves, and quite successful ones at that. These are also skills they tend to pass on to the Virgo native. Another peculiarity is the tendency of Virgo natives to find their spouses through the family, be it due to an arranged marriage or simply due to the fact that they met someone from their extended family who they fall in love with. When it comes to close friends and younger siblings, the relationships tend to be rather strained to say the least, with quite a bit of backstabbing and intrigues. One can expect quite a bit of drama between them. There is also a tendency to lie and manipulate quite a bit, which is a form of defensive mechanism on the side of the Virgo natives. And even those who refrain from lying are quite good at keeping secrets, deceiving others when it suits them. When it comes to their home, their car, and their immediate family, Virgo natives tend to be very, very attentive and caring regarding all of these. The house will always be in order and maintained religiously. The same for the car. You will be hard pressed to find a speck of dust anywhere within the vicinity. The interactions within the family itself will be by the book, with an emphasis on fairness and proper behavior. These traits are usually learned from the mother, who is a strict disciplinarian, and usually either very religious or very moralizing, sometimes even treating the native as a soldier rather than a child. This strict upbringing will also be passed to the Virgo native's children, who are usually disciplined with a very heavy hand. Growing up in what can be described as a military academy rather than a loving home. That is not to say that Virgo natives are abusive of their children or that they don't love them. They just don't cuddle them, preferring to criticize rather than praise, even when a child is achieving quite remarkable results. The tendency to criticize also impacts the romantic life, and Virgo natives are not the greatest lovers in the world, unfortunately, primarily due to the fact that they try to stay away from relationships, and when they do come into a relationship, they are trying to make it very strict and rule bound instead of fun and enjoyable. This impacts their love life quite a bit. Quite surprisingly, for such a rule bound and cleanly ascendant, when it comes to their responsibilities, they are not as strict at doing everything they must. In fact, their work schedule can be quite erratic and unusual. They can be very liberal in their timelines and in the way they do their work, which is quite the opposite of what you would expect from such a personality. On the plus side, they are very creative at how they do their job and often find new ways of completing the task, albeit later than they should have. When it comes to their health, Virgo natives are not the healthiest of signs, for obvious reasons, with their immediate environment often having a very detrimental effect on their health. For example, someone working long hours in front of a computer screen will develop health problems due to the prolonged sitting down. And these are the kinds of problems Virgo natives tend to incur in their lives. On the positive note, their immune system is usually quite resilient and capable of dealing with a variety of issues as long as they are not stomach related. Virgo natives are very bad at digesting food, especially food that they are not used to. Virgo natives tend to gravitate towards relationships with people who are very spiritual and quite liberal in their mindset, being the complete opposite of the rigidity they themselves display. It's almost a compensation for their own inability to be flexible and enjoy life. So they find someone who is basically a hippie that can show them how to relax. The spouse also tends to be either from a foreign land or somehow from a different cultural background with unusual belief systems and behaviors. If they enter a business partnership, it is usually with someone who is of the artistic type rather than someone who is an accountant or a technical aide. They themselves have the technical knowledge. They need the creativity that they lack. On the plus side, entering into a marriage or a partnership also tends to bestow upon Virgo natives property or other forms of wealth that is shared between the partners but impacts positively on their social status. In other words, they benefit financially from any sort of partnership they can enter into. While many ascendants tend to benefit from sports, when it comes to Virgo natives, it can have a very detrimental impact on their health. Sports tend to make them weaker rather than stronger, as with the other ascendants, and tend to create quite a few traumatic injuries within their body that are hard to heal. They are also very prone to cuts and bruises and traumas in general, so they should avoid any activity that can induce those. And when it comes to their sex life, most Virgo natives display quite a bit of egoism in bed, being rather self centered and not considerate of their partners. Virgo natives are not very religious by nature. In fact, they sometimes view religion as more of a tool rather than true belief. They can use it to accumulate wealth or to create some other benefit for themselves, but not really adhere to the doctrine. The best motto for them is "In money we trust." And when it comes to money, they are definitely experts at making it and at keeping it. In fact, they are the best bankers, accountants, and financiers one can imagine. Their attention to details gives them an incredible advantage running the show when it comes to finances, and they can genuinely enjoy these professions. This brings us to their preferred profession, which is usually not finances or any other desk job. In fact, they tend to find themselves in front of other people rather than in front of a computer screen. They can work as consultants, PR advisors, and in other positions that require one-on-one conversations. These are not the people you will find behind the scenes, hidden from the world. They will be right there in front of you, explaining to you what you should and shouldn't do. They also make great doctors, nurses, and caretakers because they are very capable of diagnosing diseases and other issues with those who they take care of. Here again, their attention to detail coming into effect. One thing that is quite unexpected about Virgo natives is their immense social circle. They tend to know many people and interact with them regularly. They must have friends, and quite a few of them, and they keep these friends around. In fact, they are very attached to their social circle, sometimes to the point of being unable to detach themselves from the interactions with it. For example, if people around them start criticizing their appearance, they will immediately change their appearance. Peer pressure is a very significant factor in how they see themselves. And indeed, their entire emotional stability is dependent on their social circle. As long as everything is okay with their friends and they receive positive feedback from them, their emotions will be quite elated. But as soon as they start receiving criticism, they will tend to lose their emotional stability. They're also very quick at gaining popularity and can become even cult figures, having themselves thrust into the center of attention with all eyes on them. But at the same time, they are not very equipped to handle the attention they receive. In fact, sometimes they can be quite shy, and this attention can make them uncomfortable. In addition to the self-centeredness mentioned before, when it comes to their bedroom, Virgo natives have to feel like they are royalty, have to feel here they shine the most, and they will do everything to get the attention and accolade. The pursuit of attention is also the main reason for their spending habits. They must appear to be the best, and they will do everything they can to achieve that goal, be it plastic surgeries, be it designer clothing, everything that will make them feel like royalty, like they are the best. On the one hand, this creates quite an expensive lifestyle, but on the other, they are quite capable of maintaining it because of their acumen with money. And besides, even if they cannot afford something, they will find a replacement which appears the same and will give the impression, at least outwardly, of what they are trying to achieve. Virgo natives also tend to have quite unusual and vivid dreams. They have a very fertile imagination, mostly because they don't tend to act out their creativity, so they internalize it. They also tend to do very well when they travel abroad. In foreign countries, they tend to accumulate status and wealth quite easily, and it tends to benefit them a lot when they find themselves in this new environment, as it significantly impacts their social status. Usually, it's a situation where they can go from rags to riches just by switching to a different place of residence. And now for some general predictions. Around the age of 16, Virgo natives tend to enter a relationship, their first one, and they tend to change their place of residence or acquire a new vehicle, a new car, bike, etc. Around the age of 22, they either travel abroad or spend quite a bit of money on something, or perhaps find themselves isolated from society in some ways, such as getting into a hospital or even going on a prolonged vacation. They also might start some spiritual practice that they'll follow for the rest of their lives. Around the age of 23 to 24, they tend to meet a lot of new people and realize a lifelong dream that they have. Around the age of 24 to 25, they either begin some form of higher education, such as going to college, or they begin a new career that is very lucrative for them. There is quite a bit of upheaval around the age of 28, which will either show itself in some form of over drama or some unfortunate event, but at the same time, they tend to solve some issue or win some competition that they were involved in for quite a long time. This is also the time when they can start actively engaging in sports, hiking, etc. Around the age of 32, their life tends to change course a little, and they seem to get quite a bit ahead in life, both in terms of their position or career and in terms of just their life in general being more successful from that point onwards. Their health also tends to improve. Around the age of 36, they might find themselves expecting a new child, or alternatively, they might engage in some new hobby. But in most cases, it is either a child or adopting a new pet. They have a tendency to get into debts or some form of conflict around the age of 42. It can also be some kind of disease. and the more they worry about it, the worse it gets. So it's important to keep a cool head and be calm about these things. Around the age of 47 to 48, they tend to find themselves meeting someone new who becomes a good friend, or renewing some relationship that was not very productive beforehand. Maybe it was someone who was distant before and became a good friend. And they can also find themselves engaging in some new sports activity or some other form of entertainment, something they wanted to do before but couldn't. And now they have the opportunity to make up for lost time. If you want to learn more, please visit my website. And if you want to get a personal reading with far more details about yourself, then you are welcome to contact me on my Facebook page. You will find the links below. Thank you and good luck.